Today's Toy Spot, we are having a look at the DC Collectibles Suicide Squad, the new 52, Captain Boomerang. This figure is one of 3 that was released under the title of Suicide Squad. This is a new line that was just released from DC Collectibles, and Spot paid $27.99. And if you've seen the other 2 reviews, not really going to say too much more than saying Spot paid $27.99 for this figure. It does look like at least the Captain Boomerang does come with a boomerang. Perhaps he does come with another one, or perhaps he just comes with the one, but at least he does come with a boomerang. I didn't even mention this for the other reviews because I probably was eating so much time up by talking about the pricing of things such as these figures, but I really like also the fact that there's bullet holes all in the side of the box there. On the side there's a really interesting silhouette of Captain Boomerang. On the other side a picture of the figure itself. This figure measures approximately 6.75 inches tall. Now this particular figure was sculpted by Phil Ramirez. On the back, the other 2 figures that you can get in the set, Deadshot and Harley Quinn. Now you see that's a good example right there. Harley Quinn in person, I think, looked pretty good. It wasn't a bad figure. Still didn't like the designs, but it wasn't a bad figure. This design, this picture, and in fact all the pictures I've seen of Harley Quinn online for this toy, turns me off wanting to get the figure. So, you know, if you are somebody that has probably seen this figure online or even seen it in the stores, figures definitely can vary getting it opened versus what you see images of. So I think she looks better than what she does here. It's not to say that she's a good figure, but she definitely looks better than she does on the back here. This is based on the new designs from DC Comics New 52. Now you can add Captain Boomerang, one of the sadistic members of the Suicide Squad, to your action figure collection. Of course, this again comes to us from DC Collectibles. What I am going to do is take a break. We're going to get this opened up, and when we come back, we are going to get a better look at the DC Comics, the new 52 Captain Boomerang. There's more heading your way, guys. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. So, Captain Boomerang does come with one boomerang. In fact, Spot's having a tough time actually picking it up from his backdrop. Oh, I can't. There we go. He comes with one boomerang. It's flat on the other side, which was the reason I had such a tough time picking up off the bottom here. It's just a plastic. It's just a solid plastic. I'm one of the only few times that for something like this you would expect this to be more of a pliable, rubbery plastic, but instead it's just a solid plastic. It's, I don't know, the longevity of how long something like this will last. You probably would think to yourself, well, you know what, at least if it was rubber, well, if it wasn't rubber, it's durable, you know, because if it was rubber, it would just be probably bent and warped. But it's, I don't know, it just feels uninteresting. I don't know, how interested should I be with a boomerang, but it just feels like if it was just a little more pliable, you know, it really boils down to, would I be happy either way? I suppose, at least it being a denser plastic, I'm less likely to have it warped. We'll leave it at that. But it feels kind of cheap, the boomerang itself. He does at least hold it in his hand, his one hand. The other hand, unfortunately, does not. So it looks good. It looks good. And with every other Captain Boomerang we've ever gotten, a lot of the other boomerangs aren't removable. They're just sculpted in. And he only really gets one. The other hand, though, is open. Open for debate? No, just open. So, I mean, you can get some interesting poses by having him just with the one. You can kind of have him, well, not throw it, but you can have him kind of with his arm up, looking as if he's going to throw his boomerang. And there I go, having a tough time picking it up. Again, let's just put it into his hand. There we go. I like Captain Boomerang. And you know what? This has really nothing to do with the figure. Well, it does a little bit. I like the design of Captain Boomerang, and I like the fact that with New 52, you're getting more of a classic look at Captain Boomerang. Big old sideburns, big old pork chop sideburns. One thing that drives me flipping crazy for a lot of new designs of anything. New 52 wasn't so bad, but there was a point in comic books where every update of a character, we ended up getting some white guy with a brush cut. I could think of so many of them, like Green Arrow, a Hawkeye, very good example as well. There's just a lot of characters. I think even Captain Boomerang, when his son took over, I think a little bit after the certain run, they all just they were just white guys with brush cuts. At least here, we've got kind of more the traditional Captain Boomerang. It's not quite the same kind of hat he used to wear, but, it's that toque kind of hat going on, and you got the Captain Boomerang logo in the front. But I like the sideburns. I'm so glad they have sideburns on this guy. His face is just really cool, too. It's just this big, arrogant, smirking face. I'm not really sure what's going on with his nose, though. He's got, like, some sort of debris on his nose. But I think overall it's a good-looking figure. There's something to be said as well by having a figure with an expression. This is probably something I've mentioned in the past with these videos, but when you get a figure and it's just, a Sears Portrait Studio photo and the character has his mouth shut and he's looking just straight at you and he's just got this blank look on his face. I'm one that likes facial expressions on figures. Like, this one has an arrogant smirk to it that for Captain Boomerang you really needed to have. It needed to have just an arrogance to it that I'm glad was included. Some of the traits that we would have seen Captain Boomerang as well carry over here. He's got his long jacket, really billowing, like it's really blowing out there. And it's a separate piece. It's a rubbery piece, but as always, you wouldn't want to take this off because the sleeves are still from the jacket and they wouldn't come off, obviously. He's a skinnier figure as well, by comparison, certainly to, well, you know what, let's bring in Deadshot. There's Deadshot right there. You can see how they're definitely not the same body build. They're definitely not the same mold, which is a good touch. I like that Captain Boomerang has these really skinny legs. There's really even no definition in them either, which is also a nice appreciation. I really enjoy the fact that not every figure has to have big, muscular legs. Some figures just are a lanky character that just doesn't hit the gym. So I'm glad that the figure at least has just straight, unworked out legs. But he's a nice piece. He is a nice piece. The paint's really good on all of the aspects of the figure. In fact, really all three of the figures did very well for paint. I had no issues at all with the way that they were painted. I also like the fact there's a sheen on his gloves, which kind of also carries down to his boots as well, which is a nice touch. But Captain Boomerang's articulation, we'll just take the boomerang out of his hand. He does have a ball-jointed head, which moves up and down, left and right. He has a ball socket shoulder, so it rotates out, front and back. Rotation in the, actually really at the forearm area, right there, it rotates. It does also rotate his glove, so really it rotates twice, here and here. He does have a bend in the elbow. Rotation actually in the waist. And then the legs go forward, back, out. It doesn't have a cut or anything in the thigh to rotate, but it's not to say that you couldn't still get him posed in some really neat poses. Especially, too, the fact that you can bend the knee. By bending the knee, kind of just gives it that little added bit of, detail and, just allows you to pose it in a nicer way. He does have a rotation in the boot and a pivot in the foot. Ways to really have improved this figure, base certainly would have been nice. I mean, he obviously has a peg hole. Giving him display base, maybe that said Suicide Squad, would have been a nice touch. But I think Captain Boomerang was handled well, and I'm glad to really see that DC Direct is giving us additional articulation, especially in the legs. I love this pivot in the leg area instead of just being a swivel. It gives you certainly a little more in the way of posability that you can do a little bit more with those figures. Captain Boomerang has a real arrogance to him. Let's get his boomerang back in his hand. He has a real arrogance to him. He just has a really nice sculpt. And I still really like probably the Deadshot as my favorite from this set, but Captain Boomerang is right up there as well. Captain Boomerang, I'm going to give him an 8. Today's Toy Spot, we were having a look at the final figure that made up the Suicide Squad from the folks over at DC Collectibles. Again, Not to beat a dead horse, but figure really didn't need to be $28. This figure could have easily justified an $18 price point. Whether you feel the figure should be worth that much, that's entirely your prerogative. But I think from a figure standpoint, the figure is good. Perhaps just not $28 good. Thanks for watching, guys, and stay tuned. Even though Spot's wrapped up this video, Spot's going to have a lot more toy spots heading your way. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.